What's up everybody? Emperor John Kill 3D Gaming here, and I know it's been a while since I've made a video, like an actual video. I'm trying to pick back up doing my classic game reviews, trying to pick back up on some streams, and with completing Spider-Man 2, but that's a story for a different day. Anyway, I want to talk about a game that I was told was awful, was bad, was terrible. And this is another one of those cases where, you know, listening to people talk about games nowadays, it's like a box of chocolates. You'll never know what you're going to get. Are you going to get the shitty cherry flavored chocolate, or are you going to get the actual good peanut butter flavored stuff? And what am I talking about? Cyberpunk 2077. So, apparently, see, I'm not a CD Projekt Red fan as much. I only really like The Witcher 3, and this is the second game I've played from them. I got this game roughly over about a week or two ago, and at good timing, I purchased it digitally for only 15 bucks, and one of my cousins who played this game said, "John, get this and get the expansion. It is worth it. Don't listen to the idiots that continue to trash on this game." Because I guess from what I looked into, I understand, I guess the game had a lot of bugs and glitches that were inexcusable, but bugs and glitches don't determine story, gameplay, and overall the stuff that's trapped behind, shitty performance and everything like that. But what do I think of it? So, I never went into this game thinking, oh, this is going to be a good game. I was like, okay, I'm playing a first person open world RPG. Simple enough, right? Then I did not think I was going to be this engaged with the game. This game held my attention from beginning to end. Because apparently, what I've been told is that upon purchasing what was called the expansion, the Phantom Liberty, apparently this whole game of Cyberpunk has been reworked from the ground up from the original state it was in. So I have no idea how the game really was besides videos talking about bugs and glitches. And I only know a little bit about the story, about the character of Keanu Reeves and your created character of V, and all these games with cause and effect decision making. And I like games with decision making. So going into this game, I had no expectation. I sat here, played every single mission, did every little side quest, and did every companion quest, and playing as what was called the Street Kid pathline. I guess there's three pathline in the game called Street Kid, Nomad, and Corpo. So yeah, this game has a very high political theme to it, but there's a difference between forceful politics and politics of the world that are actually good. And I was invested with a lot of the story relating to the rise and fall of corrupt organizations, gang wars being fought, illegal trades, drug running, things that you wouldn't think would fit in a futuristic setting, because this game is very reminiscent to futuristic films and sci-fi movies and sci-fi series. And I really like that. This is more reminiscent of the game Deus Ex, Mankind Divided and Human Revolution. I know I said those backwards because I know Human Evolution was first. But the way that feels, I always wondered, I'm like, I want another game like Deus Ex. And at the beginning, Cyberpunk to many people was supposed to be that game. And like I said, I don't know the history of how this game ended up the way it was, because I've just played it recently, and I separated myself from people talking about it to me actually experiencing it, because I don't want my image of a game that I haven't played before tainted by anything. So I don't even know if I played any of the Phantom Liberty, because I beat both games, the main game and the Phantom Liberty, because I from what I was told and from what I see, it's fused into the main campaign, and I guess there was a lot of campaign stuff and mission stuff and things that were left on the cutting room floor that did not come out the first time. But from what I played, every mission flows well. Some of these missions, or not like some, quite a few of them have different outcomes. Different outcomes, how your characters in the world, like your companions, will view you. And the overall story was a lot better than I thought. At first, I was very confused because I don't know a lot of the lore behind this world. All I know is that your created character has the conscious being or conscious mind of the character of Keanu Reeves called Johnny Silverhand. And it's almost like a Jekyll and Hyde scenario. Throughout the course of the game, you're sharing your body with this guy. And he also plays into decisions where you get to effectively take control of Johnny Silverhand. He can sometimes be the devil on your shoulder or the angel in your ear telling you what's right and what's wrong. It's crazy. And I really was so confused. At least I want to say my first few hours of the game, I was confused. But then going through the course of the game and seeing how my decisions and the story of Johnny Silverhand does play into current things that are going on. I'm just a little disappointed. There's only one thing about this game I'm disappointed in. Why couldn't there be an expansion where you play solely as Johnny Silverhand? Play his entire life from his rise to his death. And I get that Keanu Reeves was a big part of the marketing and people thought he was going to be the main character, but not necessarily. He is the main character living through you. And there's even sections of the game where you do play as Johnny Silverhand, and hell, you get his weapons, and there's certain abilities on the skill tree. That's actually one of the unique things I like about this game. The way you level up. You don't just level up, allocate skill point, and it affects your overall stats. No, you have to get certain parts because you're part mechanic or you're part cyborg. I That's another thing that confused me. It's like, how much of a human are you? Are you fully human just with some cybernetic augments? Are you a full cyborg? It's just crazy. And I haven't had this much fun alternating different weapons, seeing what abilities and cyber parts fit for my character. I know there's terms for it, but I'm not going to get through all the detail with doing that. You know, even picking up things off of the dead bodies of other enemies, which is also something that could affect your character. You could pick up these chips, I believe, different chips, put them into your character, and you get better. Certain skills are determined depending what you focus on. It reminds me like a futuristic Skyrim, if that makes any sense. The way you level up. If you're good in one particular field, you will continue to get better in said field. So, for example, if you focus on melee in this game, you'll be really good at melee. If you focus on gunplay, you'll be good at gunplay. If you focus on your cybernetic augments, you'll be good with cybernetic enhanced abilities. Every little thing does serve a purpose and could affect in the battlefield of where you're fighting different enemies and different scenarios. That was something that would feel overwhelming to some people, but not really. So, more so with Cyberpunk. Why was it hated at the beginning? From what I've dug into, is just the bugs and the glitches. Because I don't see how anyone could say that the story sucked or the gameplay sucked or anything like that. Everything else about the game is stellar. Everything else about the game is actually really, really good. But since I have not encountered bugs or glitches, I take it that they've been all ironed out at this point because I forgot the exact release of this game. I can't judge, I can't take those into account because if they don't happen to me, I can't take in someone else's experience. Not to acknowledge that they didn't happen, or maybe there's something I didn't notice or glitches that I may have not come across. But if I don't encounter them, I can't use them to weigh down anything I say about the game. Now, if I experienced them, that's fine and dandy. They'll get brought up. But if I don't, I'm sorry. I can't just say that, oh yeah, I've encountered this, and this. tailored by other people's experience. That makes it feel very unfair to my thoughts and opinion of the game. Now, is there aspects of this game that people would probably not like? Absolutely. I don't think this game is made for everyone. And it's not. It's clearly made for a particular fan base, the CD Projekt Red fan base. But if you're taking someone like me who's not really a CD Projekt Red fan, only really enjoying the third Witcher game, and you got me into playing this, you know, CD Projekt Red, whatever you did the first time that this game came out awful, as supposedly some people said it was, outside of bugs and glitches, if you fixed it, then hey, kudos to you. That's dedication from a company. But what about the world itself? Now, the world itself is the most unique looking cyberpunk, no pun intended, looking world that I've ever seen. You know, I've played games like the only thing that reminds me of this would be Deus Ex. Deus Ex had a cyberpunk S type feel, but it was more like cyber noir, if that's the proper term, cyber noir type feel to it. But this one feels a lot more open. This one feels a lot more your decisions really do affect the course of certain aspects in the game. Now, I was told that, oh, it's like Mass Effect 3, no matter what you do, it doesn't determine the ending. The ending I got, apparently, because one of my cousins, he beat this game before the DLC or the game getting enhanced and anything like that, like fixed. And I told him the ending I got, and he said, "Yo, that's not the same ending that I got." And he said he's beaten all three of the story-based. What was it? What was the word I'm looking for? Oh, all the intro points. Now, the one thing that is shared across all three starting games is the prologue. The prologue mission of robbing the Arasaka Tower or the hotel for the biochip of Johnny Silverhand, which you do have to steal. Like, they do set up this heist. They set up everything leading into that mission, because after that mission is when the story really comes into play and comes into effect. So the story at first does hold your hand through at least, I want to say, the first couple of hours, because those scenes are very scripted and you have to go along a linear path. But then after that, when the world is open to you, there's so many side activities, there's so many interactions, and there's so many things you can do, meeting new people. Hell, I didn't even know that you can meet some companions outside the main campaign. You just have to go along their story path. And CD Projekt Red, of course, is inclusive and allowing any character of any sexual orientation to basically start a relationship with. Hell, the character creation screen, I have never seen a game that you can quite literally customize the leaking lizard, if you know what I mean. Or making yourself both or anything like that, but you already know me. I go down the obvious and most correct path, which is the straight path, and going after the hottest female characters in the game. My love interest being Panam, and second being Judy. So really, no characters are locked behind their orientation. It just depends how well do you develop with those characters. How well do you get them to feel for you? And they themselves have their own stories and campaign. Now, what you're going to be doing most of the time in this game is combat. And even the enemies themselves have cybernetic enhancements that allow them to dodge bullets. There's different types of guns, multiple pistols, multiple SMGs, multiple assault rifles. Some are rare, some come in different, what is it? Rarity, power ratings, which, like Johnny Silverhand, for example, you go and do his quest line and you find his revolver. And from the revolver, you can also find certain based swords. Every weapon has different sets, abilities, skills, and attachments. Like one pistol, I didn't even know it was an automatic. It fired regular single fire, but then when I aimed down the sights, it turned into a little Glock machine gun. And I was surprised. I was like, wow, these weapons have different not attached. I know every game has guns with attachments, but attachments that actually affect the course of the fight in a moment's notice. Like bladed weapons, you can choose to use regular swords, knives. What was the other weapon? Yeah, swords, knives, bats, blunt objects. But there's also certain augments that allow you to go frickin' Mortal Kombat Baraka style with blades coming out of your arm. There's stealth in the game, which is also an option. This game has multiple ways of being able to approach a situation, which reminds me of not Cyberpunk, Skyrim and Deus Ex mainly. From what I get the feel of this game, it feels like a futuristic Skyrim with the elements of Deus Ex and a little bit of Blade Runner. That's how I view this game. And when I went into it looking at it like that, I was like, you know what? People could say what they want about the game, but they can't deny that it's probably really good now compared to the first time. Because every time I've tried to see some videos about saying, oh, how do people feel about the improvements of Cyberpunk? I don't think people like to promote positivity about a game changing. They probably just know that, oh, we'll discuss the negative factor, but we'll ignore the improvements that it must have made because, the negative factor gives us, that high revenue and high boost in viewership. But, that's just me. I'm not afraid to call things out like that. But Cyberpunk as a whole, as a video game, if it didn't come out with its problems, I guess in the beginning, all of its bugs and glitches, and it was just the way it should have been, I guess this is the game that it was supposed to be at launch. But since I can't talk about it how it was at launch, since I never experienced it that, I have to experience it as the game is now. And the way the game is now is, I kind of wish that I was like, wow, I should have started sooner. I don't know when the game was fixed. That's the kicker. Whenever the game got fixed, that would be the point that I would want to start the game and want to start playing it. Because here, I could see myself going back and doing the other intro level lines. Like I did the Street Kid, now I have to see the Nomad arc, and now I have to see the Corporal arc. This game has multiple paths and multiple different ways of playing, which is always good for a game like this. You want to find a reason to go back. Now, the one thing I can nitpick about is the inconsistencies of enemy AI. Funny, in a game set in this kind of scenario in future, you would think AI would be maxed out or perked out fully, but no. The enemy AI is very inconsistent. At first, they will do what they need to do. Like they will adapt to your patterns. And it could be the different enemy types. I could just be saying that the grunt level enemies act, very dumb and stupid at times. But this goes across every enemy except certain bosses. Boss battles I could see and bigger enemies, they actually go along with fighting you and they go along with how they need to combat you, and you do need to work around some of their maneuvers. Yeah, you could just shoot at them, but what's the fun if you don't use your abilities and don't use what the game gives you? Hell, one enemy I saw, I was shooting him up, but he was shooting at the police, not shooting at the guy that he was supposed to fight. But that's my nitpick mainly, is just about the enemy AI. They also have certain missions in this game, which are almost investigative type scenarios. They really thought about putting every type, I wouldn't say cliche, but open world first person RPG styled gimmick in the game. But any game can use other games' mechanics. It just depends, how do you make the game feel original with said mechanics. Like here's a prime example. Terminator Resistance. It feels like a mini Far Cry game with a lot of elements from Far Cry. But since those elements were never done in a Terminator game, they feel fresh and familiar with its own experience behind the license. That's the thing here with Cyberpunk. It takes a lot from Skyrim and it takes a lot from Deus Ex and implements it into this game with its own mechanics layered on top. And the one thing that really does hold this game together if you don't feel the story is the story or the strong points you don't think is strong, the characters in this game really hold the game together. Every character has a unique personality. Every character interacts with you, especially ones that you develop relationships with. It could be very, very insane to realize that, hey, I've developed all these relationships with these people, but a single mistake you can make could make it or break it. Like there was a couple times I had to reload a couple saves because I accidentally got somebody I knew killed, or I got a relationship that I wanted to be in halted, or one of the characters just flat out stopped talking to me. It's crazy, but the game doesn't hold your hand and tell you when things like that are going to happen. You need to figure it out on your own. And that's something I love more so about this game. I don't know what my decisions are going to lead to. I don't know what's going to happen. Like there was a couple times where I made a couple different decisions, thought I was going along the right thing, and then something did a 1 fucking 80 and screwed me. That's just crazy how that could happen. And it makes me feel like, okay, maybe there was a lot more to this game than I initially thought, because this was the case where I was like, all right, maybe the majority of gaming outlets and people in the gaming industry and other channels, they probably know what they're talking about. And they probably did at the beginning when it came to this game. But I think apparently now that the game has made so many improvements and it's not the same game, the only word I'm taking is the word of my cousin, since he's like invested with these types of games and he would know these games better than I do. He told me I would enjoy the game, and he didn't tell me the amount of problems it had. He just said, John, play the game now and you'll get a kick out of it and you'll enjoy it for what it is. And I thought I was gonna really see it as just standard sci-fi future RPG fare. But no, I was wrong. I really enjoyed Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I never reviewed the game because, or made a review of it. You would think this would be that. No, not really. It's not really that. It's just me discussing my overall experience with the game. And it's actually better than I thought it was going to be. Now, I get it. Not everybody's going to agree with me because Lord knows you can't say something positive without 10 million negatives coming out the blue, but those are the ones you don't acknowledge, because you can't acknowledge people that are always wrapped up with being negative about something, because they won't have a clear mind and unbiased thing to say about said game. It was the same thing with the Callisto Protocol. People were saying it's bad. I'm playing it now. How could people say it's bad? Oh, I get it. People went into it thinking it's Dead Space, when a game can be inspired by Dead Space but doesn't, what is it, take from Dead Space. It's crazy. I don't know how people can live like this where they have to be on everything's ass. And the poster boy for this game, Keanu Reeves, how's his character more so? The character of Johnny Silverhand is insanely hilarious to me. He has no chill, but he's one of the most enduring characters in this game, and like you can feel bad for him. You feel bad and realize that, okay, he's not the asshole that he presents him to be. He's only an asshole because that's how he was made. But the character of Johnny, and you go down his story and you fully understand, he was a good character at heart and he was a good guy, and it was fucked up the way he died, because his death, he thought nobody cared about him when he died. And apparently a lot of people cared about him. His old friends. There's even a nice little story. I think it's a side mission story, but it's its own campaign of you getting together with all of Johnny's friends, and they get together for one more time to be a band, because not only was Johnny a band leader, like a leader of his band, he was a revolutionary in going against the corporations. And that is obviously stereotypical type of power to the people type thing. But in this game, a lot of the tropes that people would say are overly political, or, you know, we don't like this in our games, and yada 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 yada, all that type of stuff. There's a point of when it's appropriate to use themes like that and when it's not appropriate. And for a game like this, yes, it can incorporate real world scenarios such as discrimination, such as politics, such as sexual orientation. This game feels appropriate when it discusses those matters and it presents those versus any other game where it's just thrown in just because hoo 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 diverse characters hoo 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 hoo. No, this game threw all those tropes that people hated out the window. It felt a lot more like the Matrix, and what I mean by the Matrix is there's a lot of philosophy. Also, the characters have their own philosophies, they have their own codes, they have their own way of thinking that make them unique, that make them the characters they are. And at first, I didn't understand who wanted what. I didn't know what everyone's desires were and what they felt until I started playing the Pan Am story. And when I fully functioned to understand how these characters worked, I was like, wow, I can understand how these people think. I can understand how my companions feel. I understand the trials that they may feel, especially the one with Judy and Evelyn, which has a sad ending to it. You know, it's a bittersweet, sad ending because some of your friends could, in fact, leave the game and you never hear from them afterwards. It's crazy. Everyone has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it just determines when you want to take those missions or when do you want to engage with that part of the story. It leaves everything very open to you to discover it at your own pace. And you know what game also did that? Fallout New Vegas. So this game tried to juggle so many things. And don't get me wrong, it juggles everything very well, but one of them chainsaws is going to slip. And I believe in some areas it does lack. It heavily lacks in certain areas. But for the areas that it excels in, it excels really well. I didn't expect much going in to Cyberpunk 2077. You know, but because of a game like this and me experiencing it now for the first time, I think I should just ought to think twice before letting multiple different views of the game determine whether I go into a game with high or low expectations. I've always said it before. If you go into a game letting what other people say determine your experience, you're not going to have a genuine experience. You're going to have a predetermined experience of what you expect because it's influenced by outside opinions and outside voices that are not entirely your own. And that was my case. Now, did the game have many problems when it came out from the videos I've seen? Yes, it did. Am I experiencing those problems now? No. So therefore, I can't acknowledge them or show clips of them because I found none in my playthrough. Now, I'm pretty sure people will leave links saying, nope, they're all in your game still, you just did ignore it. I'm like, if I recorded all these gameplays for this video and I've beaten the game and I haven't experienced not one thing, well, take it for what it is. I didn't experience anything. Now, probably people have experienced anything after, probably with inferior hardware or not keeping their games up to date, or people have either dying Xboxes or dying PlayStations or improper PC parts or not using them correctly to probably make the game experience, or they're pulling DSPs and just bitching about everything, which is normal. But after all is said and done, this game, by my understanding, has gone through a huge redemption arc. And that's also the feel of the game. That's also the core of, I think, what makes this game good. The game came out poor and it redeemed itself. And the story, one of the beats in this game, one of the story beats, is redemption and resolution. So, in that regards, Cyberpunk was an unexpected joy. It's an unexpected game that I didn't expect to get into. It was one of those games where I was like, maybe I shouldn't. But taking the advice of my cousin and getting into the game now, I hope there's more added to this game. More expansions, reasons to keep going back. Of course, I'm going to do New Game Plus and play other storylines and the other path lines in the game. But from the path I chose and for the experience I went through, Cyberpunk 2077 knocked it out the park. It's a lot better than I thought. It's actually a good game. And whoever's still on the bandwagon of when it first came out, not thinking it got any better, well, just ignore those people. They're stuck in their bubble. They just need something to keep that ad revenue up. I mean, who wouldn't, you know? Who wouldn't do that? So, that's all I gotta say. This is Emperor John Kill 3D Gaming. Be sure to look out for my Spider-Man 2 video and some live streams coming up probably soon on my next days off. See you all later, guys, and I hope you all have a great holiday and Thanksgiving coming up soon.